The third way to find the least common multiple, and you don't have to use all three ways, you choose the one you like, but the test may suggest one that you have to use, so you need to learn all three. There's three methods to learn the least common multiple between numbers. Let's take the third method on, the Euclidean algorithm method. It's based on one important fact. The important fact is when you multiply two numbers together, I just called them m times n, when you multiply two numbers together, it equals the greatest common divisor times the least common multiple. We'll come back to that fact. It's very important. Pause the video and read that again if you need to. Let's do our first example of finding the least common multiple using the Euclidean algorithm method. Let's find the least common multiple between 18 and 24. The Euclidean algorithm method tells us to take the bigger number, 24, and divide it by 18. 24 divided by 18, it goes in there once. 1 times 18 is 18, and when we subtract, we have a remainder of 6. Because we have a remainder, we must do that process again. We take the remainder and divide it into the divisor from the previous one. Here's that method again. You take the previous remainder, 6, and divide it into the previous divisor, 18. 18 divided by 6 goes in 3 times. 3 times 6 is 18. There's no remainder. When there's no remainder, I get to stop, and the answer is the previous remainder. Oh, but that's the greatest common divisor, 6. That's not the answer to the least common multiple. That's the greatest common divisor between 18 and 24. But remember the fact. If we multiplied our two numbers together, that would be 18 times 24. It would equal the greatest common divisor times the least common multiple. I'll say that again. If we multiply our two numbers together, 18 times 24, it will equal our greatest common divisor, that's 6, times the number we're looking for, the least common multiple. If we multiply 18 times 24 together, let me get a calculator out. 18 times 24, that's 432. It's going to equal 6 times the number we're looking for. We just divide by 6 and we'll have the answer. 432 divided by 6 is 72. 72 is the least common multiple. So we find least common multiple using the Euclidean algorithm method by first finding the greatest common denominator and then using it in this fact. I'll explain it better on the next page. We found out that 6 is the greatest common divisor by using the Euclidean algorithm method. So now we need to multiply 18 times 24, divide by the greatest common divisor, and we get our least common multiple. We use the greatest common divisor to find the least common multiple. Let me do another example of that. Let's find the least common multiple between 21 and 18. Well, we're going to use the Euclidean algorithm method. That's taking the bigger number and dividing by the smaller number. 18 goes into 21 once. 1 times 18 subtracted from 21 is 3. We have a remainder of 3. We must keep going because we have a remainder. Here's the part that's tricky. Take the remainder and divide it into the previous divisor. I'll say it again. Take the remainder and divide it into the previous divisor. 18 divided by 3 goes in 6 times. 3 times 6 is 18. Oh, good. There's no remainder. My answer is the previous remainder. No, that's just my greatest common divisor answer. But remember the fact, I need to find the greatest common divisor because it will be multiplied to the least common multiple to equal the two numbers multiplied together. So I'll do a little algebra and find my answer. So I'm going to multiply 21 times 18. 21 times 18. I'll divide by my greatest common divisor. 21 times 18. That's 378. And then divide by my greatest common divisor that I just found. That gives me my least common multiple. 126 is the least common multiple between those two numbers. That might be easier than writing out all the multiples, but you decide.